What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Reality Radio Podcast, Whitney and Stephen. We have the honor and the privilege of speaking with Jessie from Big Brother Season 15. Jessie, as we all know, she became jury number 2 for this season, so we're going to be chatting up with her and asking her, her opinions on this season as a whole, and also getting to your questions on Twitter. We're going to be asking them for you guys. Like always, you can follow us on Twitter. We're at Reality Radio Pod. My personal Twitter account is at CSSanders_SNE.
And you can follow me personal Twitter account at JANELMCG.
Yep. And our blogs, where this will be posted, is talkingrealitytv.blogspot.com.
Hey, sorry, I was stuck in traffic and I was running a little late. I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. Yep. Welcome to Reality Radio. Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Do you want to throw out your Twitter handler? I know you guys are, allowed to go on, social media now. So you want to throw it out there for everyone?
Yeah, it's at JessieClaire88.
Nice. I guess we can go, straight into it. But I think overall, I want to start off. How would you rate your Big Brother season overall?
I would say are you saying like my personal experience or the cast or like?
Yeah, let's go with personal experience, like your personal experience for you.
I'd probably rate it at like a 7.
A 7? Okay.
How did you prepare for being in the house?
Well, as a smoker, I had to go buy a bunch of cigarettes. I watched a bunch of episodes and kind of tried to come up with, like, a structure for a strategy, but I didn't want to have, like, a set strategy because I knew it was really going to depend on the people in the house and how I got along with them. But I did watch a bunch of Big Brother episodes and, basically, just saw my family and friends and, kind of just mentally prepared myself for being away for a while.
Mm-hmm. Was it everything that you expected?
Well, expect the unexpected. So a lot of it was very unexpected. Ian and I were just talking about how small the house seems, once you're in there and, everything looks so bright and colorful and things on TV, but when you get in there and you're in these bright colored rooms, it's more of a distraction, and you're trying to make sense of like the wallpaper, to try in case it's like going to be used in a competition or something, and just living in like that environment, which basically is like a TV set in a lot of ways. Can be a little crazy. You can't really prepare yourself for those types of things. You just kind of roll with it once you get there.
Yeah, right.
And you said you watched previous episodes just to kind of get a feel for the game. Now, whose like gameplay really stuck out to you as you was watching? Like, who would be your favorite person to ever play this game?
Well, I thought Dan did a really good job of just kind of relating to the viewers in the sense that, he just was always kind of telling us what was going on with his game in a really, like, clear, straightforward way. And, I always try to kind of take that approach in my DRs, speak to, the fans that are out there rather than just, like, go off on a rant. But, his strategy of just kind of laying low whenever that's what I was doing, I really kind of clung to that. And, having somebody that had done that and has worked before in the past, definitely was helpful. Also, Ian, he made that, like, big switch, from one alliance to the other, and that was, something that I used in my game also. And so, that was something that let me know that was okay, So, I kind of pulled from many different people's strategies. Like, as far as girls go, Keisha, like, she was just a really real, down-to-earth girl, and I related to her a lot during the game.
All right, you're in the house right now, and you have all these crazy personalities. So who did you pick out and say, okay, I got to watch this person. I got to stay away from this person?
Definitely for my game, it was Caitlin. You know, like, I thought that her and I had a lot of similarities, and I honestly thought that there was only, like, room for one of us, like, in that position in the game. And so, you know, whenever Jeremy left, she started reintegrating into the house, and it really freaked me out because I didn't want to get pushed out, you know, which was a big reason why I tried to get her to go on Drug Week, because I was afraid that, you know, she was just kind of, she's extremely likable, sweet girl, and I was just kind of afraid that, you know, people would start liking her more than me and, you know, eventually keep her over me.
Now, is this the whole house or a particular alliance?
She's a great competitor, too. You know, she's really, really strong competitor.
Yeah, she is. We did. So, did you ever, like, pick any particular person that, like, I want to make it to the finals with you?
You know, I always had hopes that I would go to, in the very, very, very beginning of the game, I don't know if y'all remember this, probably only, like, live feeders have seen this, but we formed an alliance very early on with Bang Ring. And when I, was trying to get to know the girls in the very beginning, I thought Aaron and I were very similar. You know, we came from a very, central part of Texas. You know, we know a lot of the same places and just kind of grew up. So initially, you know, I thought that, you know, she was kind of going to be my girl, like, in the game. Well, you know, we saw how that played out. That didn't happen at all. So once I moved, you know, away from that idea, I definitely was hoping that Helen and Alyssa, you know, were going to take me, you know, farther in the game. And I knew that Helen had a power position, you know, coming off of that HOH. She just seemed, it just, in the house, you got the vibe that, you know, you had Amanda McRae and then you had Helen. And, you know, so either they were both, they were both means to an end. And, you know, I was trying to help, to basically get Helen to understand that I was as loyal to her as I would be, you know, more so than I was to anybody else in the house. So I really was hoping to go pretty far with Helen, you know, but I knew she was a much bigger target than me. So that, you know, that could have worked in my favor later had we, you know, gone a little bit further together. But, you know, it's funny getting out of the house and seeing all of the fans, you know, talking about Candace, Alyssa, Helen, and I as kind of like what they would have liked to see as the Girl Alliance. It kind of strikes me because I didn't think of that in the house. But, I mean, that would have been pretty perfect if we were able to come together in that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you have any idea who the MVP player was?
We knew it was Alyssa, yeah.
Okay.
After the first MVP nomination. I didn't know before, but I knew after.
Uh-huh.
And then, as far as the America MVP, I didn't know.
I did.
We guessed, but, you know, we really didn't have, you know, we really weren't sure one way or the other. I, for a long time, thought it may have been McRae, because I remember someone saying, you know, maybe Amanda's hurting his game and this is his way of getting her out. But with that, like, indirectly. And so I thought, you know, that makes sense to me. So I kind of went with that for a while.
Yeah.
No, it seems like, for a little bit, like, in the very beginning, that Howard was the only guy left that really wanted Amanda gone. So why it seemed like Miranda, they really had like an alliance with Ian, like they had their certain people, then there were people in the middle who I wasn't quite sure about. So did you ever find them threatening, or did they have alliances with everyone, or were you guys scared of the backfire, or why wasn't anyone really targeting them?
I mean, I was always targeting them, but it was just a matter of coming together in a group to basically, you are always thinking about the vote, because you have the intention, you would like to see certain nominations, but if you don't have the votes to get somebody out, then you're setting yourself up, because that person will just come right after you. So everyone was always afraid that, you know, if you put Amanda McRae up, either one of them would, like, be coming after the other one. So be coming after the rest of the house, whoever was left. So it was just easier to knock out those people that didn't, have such a strong power position, duo in the house. But, Howard's week, that was definitely like, a time where I was ready to make the switch. I was like, okay, like, let's do this. And, like you said, there's those people in the middle, and those are the people that make the vote. So, we needed at that point at least Andy or Judd to come on board with that idea. And at that time I thought Andy was somebody I could trust, so I trusted him with that information to see, just to test the waters. And then, of course, he runs back and tells Amanda McCrae everything, which didn't matter. Howard was still going home that week, but, that's why he couldn't stay, and nobody really had the courage, I guess, to go against Amanda McCrae from that point forward until, Gina Marie's week.
And did you see Andy as a huge threat while you were in the house?
I knew he had a really good social game. And, once he started winning competitions, it was pretty clear that, he was he was a good player. But, I thought, I would have liked to have gone further with him in the game. And I considered him an ally for a long part of the game, even though it wasn't, basically said, hey, there was this kind of an understanding, but he's such a good liar, it's just hard to know that he wasn't really, didn't have my back, because you just have no way to know. And so I was hoping, we could help each other out. Had I known what was really going on, I definitely would have seen him as a threat, and I would have tried to make Helen understand, what a big threat he was, because, Helen would go to Andy for everything. You say one thing to Helen, and she goes, okay, well, let me check with Andy. Well, basically that's saying, let me check with Amanda McCrae and, everybody. So It really didn't work that way.
No, I was going to say finale night. Was your decision already made to vote for Andy to win before he gave his speech?
Not necessarily. I knew, Gina Marie had made a really strong move with getting out Amanda, and that's something that I had wanted to do all throughout the game. So had she answered her questions more, in a strategic way, I think she kind of forgot up to the last minute that she was playing the game, so, had she answered her questions more strategically, that definitely would have been more food for thought.
So how do you think Andy ranks amongst the other winners?
So which other winners?
So Andy, Ian won the last season. Dan, Dr. Will, Boogie,
Rachel won.
Yeah, Rachel.
I mean, that's kind of not fair to ask me that question right now, because I would feel like, no, not because of you, Ian, but because of Andy. I'm just still so hurt by him that I would want to be like, he's at the bottom, because I just am such a Big Brother fan, but it's so different when you're in the game playing with it, and for me, definitely my feelings were hurt. So I would say, I don't know, maybe somewhere in the middle.
That's a good.
Are you still close with anyone from your season?
Yeah, I've talked to Helen recently, and, her and I have a lot in common as far as just, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. My tag was unemployed on the show, but I was working in sales for a behavioral assessment corporation, for the whole year previous to my unemployment. And I think a bunch of Americans can relate to me being unemployed. That's just the nature of our economy right now. So I'm just going to put that out there. I know it's kind of been a joke, but, Helen has had a really big corporate career. A lot of our conversations revolved around business and just, what we could do to further, what I could do to further myself in a business career and all of that. So, we have things in common outside of the house. She's a really strong, beautiful woman, and she may have made some mistakes in the game, but she's one of those people that I think really means well. you know, and, you know, I think that she's a good person outside of the game. I'm really proud of Candace for, you know, the way she handles herself in the game. And while I haven't talked to her, I'm still supporting her from, you know, a distance. You know, I think we all need a little time to kind of cool off from the experience. And let me think, Judd, you know, Judd, well, I think, you know, he's a good guy. And we had, you know, we have had some conversations, and he's apologized for some of the things he said about the show. And, you know, I appreciate that. So I think that will be fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Our last question, then we're going to get to some Twitter questions. I know being in the house, you forget a lot of things that you probably, because so much goes on in your head, and you forget things that you may have said previous weeks. So, but there's this big controversy, like all over the internet. And I was wondering, did you have any idea while you're in the house that certain people's behavior and comments would have caused so much negativity and just talk amongst the media?
You know, I really did not know that it would cause as much controversy as it did. For my game, I tried to kind of stay out of it because I wasn't directly involved. But we had absolutely no idea. And, you know, it's crazy to me that that's kind of what our season kind of revolved around in a way, you know, is all of this really, this racial controversy, you know, and to me it's a little bit sad as a fan, you know, to have that kind of be the scarlet letter of our season.
I want to ask a few of these Twitter questions that you got a lot. Yeah,
you did.
I'm going to get through a few of them. This is from a fan page of yours, at Jessie KBB15 fan. They want to know, did you have any idea how you will be perceived outside of the show? And were you surprised by how many fans you have?
I had no idea how I was going to be perceived at all. And I am so thrilled to, you know, it's beyond my wildest dreams, honestly, to come out of the house and have so much love and support from my fans. And, you know, I had no idea. I thought I was just kind of on this journey by myself, and I felt really alone at times during the game. And, you know, to come out and have people say we were right there with you, watching you the whole time, we supported you, and, you know, we get where you're coming from, you know, is so special to me.
Yeah. All right. This next question is from a Big Brother fan page. He says, was there anything that was fake or staged on this season?
Not to my knowledge, you know, as far as my experience with it within the competitions in the house, I never, ever really saw that. And I know that there was something about Helen and her foot being tapped, you know, but I almost feel like if that were true, she would have told me in jury, you know, like, hey, this happened, you know, so I don't know, I have a hard time believing that is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I always say that Big Brother is like the most real of the reality shows, and I really would, you know, I would be disappointed as a fan if I felt that they had interfered in any drastic way to change the game.
Definitely.
From
at LouisVan17, what's the deal with you and Judd? Friends or more than that?
Judd and I are just friends. We have been for a while now, you know, in jury and all, you know, before jury, we've been friends. And, you know, I think that, you know, we were basically like close allies at a point in the house. And, you know, that's kind of a bond we shared in the house. And yeah, I wish nothing but the best for Judd. I think he's a great guy, but yeah, we're just friends, and you know, and nothing romantic. But I wish him the best with his, you know, future romantic endeavors.
All right, next, this is from at Tara Marie, and she says, "What was your favorite moment in the Big Brother house, and what was your favorite moment in the jury house?"
That's a tough question because, there's so many
moments.
So many just good moments. I feel like every time we walked into the backyard for a competition, it just kind of blows your mind. But I think my favorite moment would have been when I was up on the block and Amanda was gunning for me and I won the veto. And that was just like a cool feeling to finally win something,
Yeah, and to save yourself.
Yeah, to save myself.
Exactly.
It was like I could do it. It made me feel really good to be able to finally win something. In the jury house, my favorite moment, we had a lot of good times. One night we had a casino party, and they actually brought in a craft dealer and set up a craft table, and we learned to play craps, and we dressed up like 20s, and we made little headbands, like in the 20s, and the production assistants laid out, food and stuff for us, and, that was a lot of fun. So it's probably one of my best memories from the jury house.
Now I wanted to know about, what's the vibe like in the jury house? Is it bitter? Is it a sigh of relief that everything's done now, but you still can't really, go back to your real life yet? You just stuck there thinking about the game. What's the vibe like?
I think after we went, I think I can speak for Judge Candace and really Helen was there, but Judge Candace and I, after we went back and tried our shot, in the game, Judge got back in, but at one point he was back in the jury. After we had that second chance, we basically knew that, our game was over. And so, leading up to that, we still were into the game. We talked about the game, what we thought we would do if we went back. But after that, it was more like, okay, it's officially over, and so we're just going to try to enjoy this time, relax, have some downtime, and make the most of our situation. It was really a chill vibe. It wasn't very, it wasn't at all really tense. If ever, I needed a moment, I would just go to my room, which is a luxury, you don't have in the Big Brother house. Is privacy, and that's something we did have in jury, was privacy. So, it was okay. We had a good time.
Okay. At Curtis9181 wanted to know, apparently Amanda said that you and Candace got into it in the jury house, and you want to know more about that. I guess an argument or something like that.
Yeah, it was just a misunderstanding, and it happened, right before the end. We had been in the jury house at that point for 4 weeks. And, I think it was more of like a sisterly, little bickering. It didn't involve game at all. It didn't really involve any personal attacks. It was more just, more just kind of getting on each other's nerves. And, we both apologized right before leaving the house, and we were like, sorry, it's just the environment. And, we left the whole experience on really good terms.
All right, this is from your fan page again, at Jessie K, BB15 fan. She says, who would you include in your dream Big Brother 15 alliance?
So would that be from my cast?
I guess, no, I guess just from your season, from the start. Like, if you could create an alliance to put together.
I would probably say Candace, Alyssa, and Helen.
Okay, so the 4 ladies.
Yeah, I would have loved for us to be able to come together and have an all-girls alliance.
Nice.
Now, do you regret anything that you did or didn't do while you were there?
My thing is no regrets, and that's what I told Julie when I came out of the house, because if I hadn't, stepped up when I did, then I feel like I wouldn't have, I would have just been a sitting duck anyways. So I at least made a shot for it. The only thing that I could think of doing would be not doing that, and that's not something that I would have wanted to do, but the only person really that told me that was a bad move was Amanda. She was like, you were sitting so pretty and you could have just waited this time out and, probably made it far. but, really on whose terms. I would have, no control over anything, and I may have gone out around the same time. You don't know. So at least I made an attempt to flip the house.
Mm-hmm. And
now,
go ahead.
Well, I just want to know, if you were to be allowed to come back, would you return?
Yeah. Definitely. I would hope for a more, less controversial season, but I would definitely go back. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and, it would be a lot of fun, just like it was this summer. So, yeah, I would totally do that.
Awesome.
Now, out of the past season, which season would you like to been on? Which season would you think, I would love to play the game with these people?
Well, I thought last season was pretty cool because, of the coaches coming back and all of that, that would have been so cool to have a previous house guest coach. And, I remember thinking that I didn't really like that when I watched it last season, but after being in the experience, it would have been so helpful. So,
Sure.
Because you're on a little team, so at least you have at least 3 people.
Yeah, in the Lions.
Exactly. Something I did not have on my season.
And lastly, what do your family and friends think about the whole season, your gameplay, how you were perceived, everything? What do they think about it?
All my family and friends just say that they're really, really proud of me, and that they couldn't be prouder of me, that they were rooting for me every step of the way, that they were all watching the live feeds. They cried when I cried. They were awake when I was awake, and that they just they were on the whole journey with me, and that feels really good to come out and know that I didn't let anybody down, and that they were all rooting for me the whole time.
And actually, just this one more question on Twitter that I just saw from your fan page again. How hard was the process adjusting back to real life for you?
I am still adjusting back to real life. It's kind of it's very different. You appreciate things a lot more. It's funny because you're safe all the time, but it's one thing to have you're safe, you're taken care of, but you don't have your freedom. So, you get out of the house and you're just like, yay, I'm free, what do I do? And then, it's just like, okay, can I do this? Can I do that? Because you're so used to having all these rules and set boundaries. So I'm kind of, still adjusting to having my freedom back and, being able to make decisions, for myself.
And would you be open to doing more competition reality shows?
I would love to. Yeah, I think, that's the coolest part for me is the competition component. I just love being involved in something that, is so, it's so cool to be able to just compete in those competitions that are set up for, humans. I don't know. It's weird. It's just really cool. You would think it was, something set up for, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I would totally do it. I would go on a competition show again and hopefully rock out. And, if it were Big Brother, I would hope to win an HOH again for the first time.
And a previous Big Brother player is on Survivor now. Would you be interested in doing that?
Yeah. I mean, I want to say I would keep, all my options open. I would really have to think about it. I'm pretty adventurous. I love traveling. And I'm pretty resourceful. I grew up on a ranch, so I used to run around barefoot and, I'm used to being outdoors. So that's something that I may consider, It seems a lot more intense, but from what I hear, their season is only 30 days, which compared to Big Brother is that's, yeah, Survivor.
Yeah, because you guys were in there for 90 days, right?
Yeah, so I mean, that's nothing.
Yeah.
So I think I could do anything for 30 days.
All right, well, thank you so much for talking with us, Jessie. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. It was great talking with you guys, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
All right, you too. Thanks, folks.